Hello team and welcome back to Winners and Losers, the show where we look at the highs and the lows from the weekend just past in the world, the realms of football, and what a weekend it was. Real Madrid and Barcelona both bottling their shots at redemption. Juventus currently outside of the top four, and PSG fell further behind Lille in the race for the league earned title. So a very soothing weekend for the souls of legacy fans everywhere. Alas, that brings us to a drama-fueled weekend in the Premier League, which I'm going to break down with Joseph Tomlinson and William Brazier. How are you guys? Starting with our guest, William.
Very well, thank you, mate. It was quite a relaxed weekend for the final day of the Championship for me. Normally I'm scrambling around in tears, joy, sorrows, but we lost 5-2 to Blackburn and it didn't really matter. So, just crack on, lad.
Wonderful. We'll limit the Championship talk to that then. Joseph, how are you?
Not too bad, mate. I'm stressing out about my camera setup, though. The lighting is just so bad. I don't know what I've done, but I look like I'm a full ghost. Like, I've absolutely f***ed the lighting this morning. I can't get it right ever since I moved this camera on Saturday.
All right, George Wright and the edit. Better bump up that saturation by at least 40% then. Do Joseph a favour and do yourselves a favour by taking advantage of our discount code over at Manscaped on their wonderful products, which now include their new vegan-friendly aftershave, Sex Panther. No, it's called Refined, really, but they should do their own edition of Sex Panther, shouldn't they? Anyway, let's move on to the talking point. Instead of the traditional winner-loser moment of the weekend format, we're going to mix it up a little bit, given how dramatic the race has become for that final Champions League spot. We're going to hone in on that, gentlemen. We'll focus on two fixtures in particular and then round it off with a sort of best of the rest. And I ultimately want to gauge from you pair who you think is going to bottle the Champions League places this run in. Let's start with the Leicester versus Newcastle game that happened on Friday then, as we had many people suggest Leicester for the weekend's worst performers, including Povich FC, Rachel 7000 and at Jake Pullen 28. And rightly so, as well, as they lost quite convincingly to Steve Bruce's Newcastle at the King Power. Joe, what impressed you? Not impressed you, sorry. Where would your criticism go with regards to Leicester's performance?
Probably to the defence, straight away. But obviously, it showed how crucial Johnny Evans is to this Leicester side. Obviously, getting injured in the warm-up, unable to come out and play. And I think that really shows a significant, not like a black mark against the likes of Soyuncu and Fofana, because they're obviously still very good players. But I think they are significantly worse when Johnny Evans doesn't play in there. And they got exposed quite badly by what is an extremely, and I'm being kind to call them an extremely mediocre Newcastle side, to be honest with you. Callum Wilson was having an absolute field day in between the lines. So, yeah, the defence is a problem, but I don't think it's a massive issue. I'm not going to lie, I think top four is set. I don't think 5 points is surmountable at this stage. I think that Leicester will be absolutely fine. But nevertheless, it is a slight area of concern, that Johnny Evans injury, especially as they do have a tough run in. I think they've still got to play Man United, Chelsea and Tottenham, haven't they, which aren't the easiest fixtures. At least they've got Kelechi Iheanacho, though, still scoring goals. Fantastic finish, very Mason Greenwood-esque, I thought. I think that's sort of 8 goal involvements in his last 6 games. He looked pretty impressive. James Maddison, what are your thoughts on him, Hamster? Because he obviously the Euros has been extended to 26-man now, and I don't know whether he's doing enough to get himself on the plane.
No, obviously his lack of form also coincides with his off-the-pitch misdemeanours as well, doesn't it? So he's come back into the side, 0 assists and 2 goals in his last 11 games in all competitions, and that is just not form that's going to guarantee you a place in that very well-stocked forward line for the Euros. Agreed, he'd be very, very fortunate, maybe one of the recipients of the extra 3 places if he did go to the competition come the summer. Like you said, yeah, Iheanacho, at least he continued his fine vein of form. But Jamie Vardy, getting very concerned, did register his 9th assist of the campaign, which is pretty good going for him. Never really been a creator. And that's been, more so his bag when he's been playing in a 2 with Kelechi. But he's only scored in 2 of his last 18 Premier League appearances.
Ooh.
Exactly. William, do you think they should go big for a replacement this summer? or do you think he's been fortunate in weeks gone by?
I think Vardy is quite a streaky striker, isn't he? So I know that's, click the cliche one there. That's one in for me already. But I think when he's in form, he is in form, and I don't know. Well, he sort of adjusted the system to get that top two going, hadn't he? With the Iheanacho up front with Vardy, and people were saying that Vardy was hitting the channels a little bit more, and Iheanacho was getting in there more goal scoring positions. But I still think I was going to say life in the old dog yet, but I think I would get a headbutt if he heard that and saw me in the flesh.
You're right. Maybe he does deserve a little bit more credit for enabling, Kelechi to be in those goal scoring positions. Anyway, Will, let's move on to Newcastle. Now, what did you like? What did you like about the Magpies in this game? Which is not a question I think I've asked on this show the entire season.
Well, I think it's just that they got at them as well, wasn't it? There was that defensive shuffle up, which obviously Everton's out due to injury. But Newcastle, I'm just looking at the form table here. Hold your hats on, ladies and gentlemen. They are 5th in the form table. So if the league was 6 games only, and it was done in the last 6 games, they'd be in the Europa League. But no, I think with Newcastle, COVID affected everyone, but I think it really badly affected them with their star players, and their star players are back, the star players are in form, and their star players are performing as well. St Maximin, absolute, just direct and just great to watch. And then Callum Wilson speaks for himself. 12 goals, 23 games, the stats that you provided me, Chris. So, I mean, that should be a multiplier on that if you're scoring 12 goals in 23 games for Newcastle, especially this season. That should be like a ×2 or a ×3. And they've got everything back. They've got the chess pieces in play, and they're doing well. So, I mean, Bruce for a 5-year contract. I'm not saying that, but people might say that going forward.
No,
get it gone, lad.
No.
Yeah, absolutely stinking. This does all but guarantee another year of Bruce Ball, and I'm not sure how Newcastle fans will feel about that. Let us know in the comments below. But shout out to the defence as well, because in this game, I mean, Leicester did put up 25 shots. They weren't the best quality. I think that's personified by Maddison's 6 attempts, only 1 registering on target. But Dummett and Fernandes completing 23 clearances between them, which was more than the entire Leicester side. So Leicester went wide. They were crossing in left, right and centre, weren't they? But they stood firm at the back for Newcastle. And Dubravka made an outstanding save from Perez. A lot of them were very routine. Like 7 saves sounds very impressive from the outside looking in, but I think it was only Perez's that really tested his resolve. And yeah, like you said, St Maximin and Willock, just very willing runners, and Newcastle have needed that energy in their midfield for a while, because even if the run fizzles out and amounts to nothing, at least they've taken the ball further enough away from the defence in order for them to reset, get into that 5 again, and be able to sort of fend off the next Leicester advances. Now, Leicester's running, like you said, Joe, very tough. United, Chelsea, Tottenham. They're 5 points ahead of West Ham. You said
That's
you think
fine.
the top 4 is set at the start of the show. That is a very brave shout. What makes you think that it's going to be set? Is it Manchester United potentially resting players in the next game? Where do you think Leicester are going to nick the next win from?
Well, I think they only need to get maybe even I think they only need to win one of those 3 games. I really do. Man United are going to be heavily rotated on Tuesday. Of course, we've also got to play Liverpool as well on Thursday. So there's going to be mass rotation there. And to be honest with you, I think it's less how many points they'll drop. I just don't see West Ham taking 9 from 9. I don't necessarily see Liverpool taking 9 from 9 either. I think the teams below them will drop points still. And 5 points with 3 games left is a huge task. It has to go so badly wrong to lose 2 of those games, or even all 3 of those games. I don't think that Tottenham are good enough to beat them. I still think this top 4 is set in stone pretty much.
Okay, well, you spoke of West Ham there. Let's move on to West Ham versus Everton, but not before we hear from Brendan Rodgers, who, like you, Joe, remains very positive.
We have to fight for everything. We're so close to where it is we want to be. We're in a great position still. Tonight's a disappointment, of course, Ian, for everyone. But this is a stage of the season where you've got to win games. And to get those results, you've got to perform well. And like I said, it's absolutely key that you're concentrated.
Okay then, Sam Cook, 21, wanted West Ham firmly in the bin, and Teddy, 110, wanted to give props to Carlos Menz. So with join those sections together, and we're going to rip through this fixture because it was a little bit dull, to be perfectly honest. But it was a game that had huge ramifications on that race for the final spot, because if the Irons had won, they would have closed the gap on Leicester to 2 points, and that's where things would have got very interesting. But they did succumb to defeat against Everton at the London Stadium. Everton, by the way, have now won 11 games on the road, which is the second best record in the division behind Manchester City. That's very impressive. I mean, it does mean they've only won 5 games at Goodison, but we'll forget about that. Calvert-Lewin, the difference maker here, grabbed his 16th of the season, the joint most by any Englishman in the Premier League era for the Toffees, alongside Tony Cottee, actually. And he also laid on 4 chances in this game, which was the most of any player in the match. So he deserved to be on the winning side. That's my input. Joe, West Ham's run, I know you've just kind of poo-pooed the idea of them catching Leicester up, but their run is extremely favourable.
Oh, massively so. I think they've got Brighton, West Brom and Southampton to come. Obviously, West Brom getting officially relegated yesterday as well. But having said that, they have lost 3 of their last 4 games. And I know they've had some tough fixtures in there. Obviously, I think Newcastle was the only real standout howler for them. But nevertheless, that loss against Everton at home last night, I think probably for me signals the end of their top 4 hopes. That was a must-win last night against Everton, especially with Leicester dropping points at the weekend. If they'd have been able to claw it back to within 2 points, I think that's when we would have been talking about a serious bottle job from Leicester. But the loss against Everton was a bit of a hammer blow. I know Declan Rice might be back fit. Obviously, Antonio was back as well, wasn't he? But Saïd Benrahma, has he still not scored in the Premier League this season? I think he's still not scored in the Premier League, or maybe he's got 1 in the Premier League this season. I think maybe they were expecting a little bit of an improved output than 1 goal or no goals this season in the Premier League. So others needed to step up in these last 3 or 4 weeks, and they haven't. And I think West Ham probably will finish 5th or 6th.
Yeah, Declan Rice set to be back for the next game. Antonio and Cresswell obviously getting back into the swing of things against Everton's. They might not have been at peak form. So I suppose getting players back, David Moyes, at the right point of the season, but perhaps not enough. If Everton win their game in hand, they'll actually go level on points with West Ham, which I think is a point that a lot of people have largely forgotten about.
Yeah, and just looking at the running as well that you provided and the fixtures, the 4 teams that they've got left to play, you could potentially say have nothing to play for. And Man City on the last day of the season, the title already wrapped up. Well, I mean, barring a miracle, and I believe in miracles. But I don't see that happening, and they'll be preparing for a Champions League final as well. So they've got 4 teams who've got no motivation to play against, but it is silly season. I just can't imagine Everton winning 4 games back-to-back, getting that 12 points. But like you said, a Europa League finish would be an absolutely remarkable season for them. And then it's just the state of this UEFA conference as well. Like, moving on to next season, you want to get in the Europa League because that's more beneficial for you and getting players in and potentially developing the club. And if you fall into that, that's when, it could be a bit rank.
So I want to ask you both a question, starting with you, Joe. If either of these clubs don't cement the position they're currently in, so West Ham are 5th, Everton are 8th, but of course haven't played that game against Aston Villa yet to catch up with the likes of Tottenham and West Ham. If they don't secure at least their current positions, would we now regard their season as a failure, or have they already overperformed to an extent? And that latter point relates more to West Ham than Everton, because I think their owners were expecting at least Europa League, weren't they?
Yeah, well, West Ham have definitely overperformed. 100% they've overperformed. David Moyes has done a fantastic job there. Definitely a candidate for manager of the season. So I think anything upwards of 7th for West Ham is a fantastic season. And if you take it into context at the start of the season, if you'd have said to any West Ham fan, we'll give you a 7th or a 6th place finish, they'd probably have snapped your hand off. So I think that's absolutely fine. Everton are just so patchy. They've been so patchy across the course of this season. And those 3 consecutive draws a few weeks ago, I feel like really cost them when they did have a shot at the top 4. So they recruited quite well in the summer. They've got a fantastic manager. I think maybe they'll be disappointed if they finish 8th. But equally, it'll kind of be for them, you know what, not been incredible, but at least there's certain signs of progression in certain players, like Dominic Calvert-Lewin certainly coming on. So I don't think either team would be too disappointed.
What about you, Will?
Yeah, well, I mean, for West Ham, it's just a whole mood change as well, isn't it? And I don't know if that's, no fans in this season, a little bit less pressure off them. David Moyes just got the chance to bring the changes. The recruitment's been fantastic, and for them to even be top half, I think it's quite some sort of achievement for them, just for the U-turn from last year, from the relegation threats, and just the sort of bad cloud over the club over the recent years. So for them to be, like Joe said, if they can get top 7, and West Ham fans to be with the world opening up and to be in Europe next season and to have some European away days would be absolutely remarkable and fantastic for them. So yeah, massive achievement.
I didn't ask you about Leicester either. Do you think they're going to finish in the top 4, Will, or not? Bottle or not? Not to bottle.
I hope so. Well, I hope so. One just for you, and I do like the sort of. I love an underdog, and I'm not saying they're a massive underdog, but Leicester in the Champions League, get some of them special nights under the lights. Chris, one of you good lads, both of you. Just crack on, all right?
I'd be absolutely fuming if we'd, dragged ourselves through this season and the top 4 finished, as it normally does, and Liverpool managed to sneak in, which is kind of ominous, and we'll get onto that in a minute. But let's just put a summary in place. So we're saying you two both believe that Leicester aren't going to bottle it. They're going to finish 4th. West Ham, pretty much a successful season, whatever happens from here on in. Everton, slightly disappointing if it's 8th, but at the same time, if they usurp someone like Tottenham into 7th, can be seen as solid progress. Is that a fair summary of what we've discussed so far? Okay.
Yeah, I'll sign that off if you want, Chris.
Lovely, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, so let's talk about the best of the rest then, because obviously there were some other huge games in the Premier League this weekend, and we'll rattle through them. And expand on whatever you want to here, gentlemen. All right, I'm going to be giving you a bit of freedom here. But Chelsea beating Manchester City. What did you make of that, Joe?
To be honest with you, I thought Man City were pretty poor. Obviously, a massively rotated side, so 9 changes come into this one. I think Pep basically didn't want to give his cards away too early coming into the Champions League final. However, I do think it's a big confidence boost for Chelsea to know they can go to City, get a result. They know they can beat them on neutral ground, obviously beat them at Wembley. I think there's a big confidence element to a knockout final, and I think Chelsea have a massive upper hand here in terms of the confidence. They know they can go out and get results against City, and yes, City should probably have won the game. Aguero is an absolute whiffer. Panenka penalty's got all sorts of wrong, but nevertheless, Chelsea's players will be extremely confident. I think Man City, you're going to see a totally different team in the Champions League final, so I wouldn't be too worried from their element. But it was just a bit of a bizarre one, wasn't it? It felt like Pep didn't want to give his hand away and made 9 changes, and the 9 players that come in are still extremely strong. Like, it was still an extremely strong lineup. But Chelsea are just so hard to beat under Tuchel. They make it so difficult for you, and I think a draw probably would have been a fair result.
Yeah. I think a draw could have been on the cards, but I didn't really get Pep's whole approach to this game, and I thought they were a bit of a mess from the offset, to be honest. Rodrigo, pretty much the only midfielder in that side, looked very isolated at times, didn't he? And shout out to Timo Werner. No, he didn't get his goal, but he ran Diaz ragged in a manner I've not really seen this campaign. Like, Diaz was having to play at maximum capacity to keep up with him. Let's move on to Liverpool.
Shout out to Billy Gilmore, by the way. Shout out to Billy Gilmore. He came in and did a fantastic job.
What a lovely footballer.
An exceptional midfield.
A lovely, lovely footballer. Liverpool beat Southampton 2-0, Will. Any notes on that?
Just 3 points for Liverpool. That's what I worry about. I just signed off on the old Leicester-Chelsea top 4, but Liverpool's running and they should be picking more points up than they have done, but that running is so favourable for them, and they are getting these nondescript 2-0 wins against Southampton, and
got to beat United though. They have to beat United out.
Yeah, they got to beat United, and if it goes into that sort of last day scenario, that's where I worry for Leicester because of just all of Liverpool's experience going into it. So if Leicester can put an end to it, then thumbs up from me, mate. I'll keep the signature dry, but Liverpool, just chugging along nicely.
It does look ominous, doesn't it? West Brom, Burnley and Palace is Liverpool's last 3 games, and if it is going down to the wire, if it's going down to the wire, I do fear for Leicester, who have got Manchester United, Chelsea, Tottenham. I mean, Tottenham maybe not as they're not the big bads they maybe were under Pochettino, but still.
And you're playing United's B team. Like, it's going to be a very, very weak United side, that one, I think.
Hopefully.
Eyes on Liverpool, yeah.
Hopefully. And Liverpool are currently unbeaten in 5, and Thiago scored his first goal. So, yeah, a bit of a feel-good factor around Anfield once more. And Tottenham losing to Leeds 3-1, which I think a lot of people probably anticipated. Leeds beating Tottenham away
surprise.
from home. So not a huge surprise there. There was some controversy with the VAR decision against Kane, though, Joe.
Is this the offside? The offside.
Toenail,
yeah, but everybody knows
offside.
my feelings about VAR. Bin that off. Just ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah. Is he offside? To me, that's level. Like, we've lost the definition of level. If we have to have VAR, then at least let's adopt that Dutch model where it's umpire's call, for God's sake.
Yeah, I think in situations like that, it has to go with the attacker. It absolutely has to. Bamford, though, scored his 15th of the season in front of a watching Gareth Southgate. So positive vibes for him. That's 22 goals and assists in total. What a season that man has had. And he's now been linked with a move to the likes of Liverpool, which is absolutely bizarre.
Really?
Who's
linked him there?
That was David Ornstein this morning. Absolutely in the Athletic.
Ornstein's dropped that?
Yeah.
On a Monday morning.
I think it pretty much stems from Klopp saying, like, Patrick Bamford, what a player, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Obviously, admires his work rate, and because and he would kind of slot into a Klopp system on the back of his work rate. But yeah, I can't see him heading to Liverpool anytime soon, especially with the news emerging that he has signed or did sign a 1-year contract extension in the summer, which went under the radar of every single journalist going. Right, okay. So we think the top 4 are largely going to remain as is. Who's going to be the closest to Leicester then come the end of the season, Joe?
I think it might well end up being Liverpool. Obviously, they've got to win that game in hand against Manchester United, but I can see it going down to the last day of the season. But even from this position, a 6-point deficit with 3 or 4 games left is massive. So I think Liverpool 5th, Leicester 4th, Chelsea 3rd.
Okay, Will, do you have similar thoughts?
Yes, I share those opinions, but like I said, very tentatively, just worrying about that Liverpool surge and the Leicester bottle.
I agree. Right to be tentative in that regard. I think it might happen. I said the current 1 to 4 is what I predicted on Sunday Vibes about 2 months ago, but I have serious reservations about Leicester staying
If
power.
it does happen, Hamill, can I just say I will be pulling that wobble tweet up again that you sent about in the group, the wobbles
rightly
occurring.
Rightly so. I don't know who's going to win that battle yet, but that's going down to the wire as well. That little war on Twitter, great sub-narrative. Okay, let's round off the show with a moment of the week then, like we normally do. 3 for you. Give me your favourite, and then we're signing off. We're out of here. Borrell Pratt, 37-year-old Iron Robin, getting 2 assists in his first start for Groningen. Lovely comeback story. And people are already touting him for the Euro squad for the Netherlands at 37 years of age. Crazy. At VFL Where, favourite moment, probably Yilmaz scoring a brace as Lille closing on the title. Second goal was a banger.
The goal. Yeah, that goal.
And then I've actually got your entry, Joe Tomlinson, just sending me a El Matador tweet because, quite frankly, his end to the season has been mesmeric, hasn't it?
This guy, mate. This guy. Give Cavani the contract. Put it on the contract. Get him signed, because I've not seen movement from a striker like Cavani since the Ruud van Nistelrooy days. He is honestly not necessarily the best finisher, to be honest with you. He does miss a couple of whiffers, but his movement to get into these positions is a sight to behold. He is incrediable and has brought so much to United. What a signing he's turned out to be.
Joe, need to get some whiffers merchandise. There's a lot of dropping this morning. I think get that on a t-shirt. It could be miles ahead.
Yeah, truth.
Yeah, his movement for that header incredible. It wasn't just like one blindside run, was it? He pretty much took 3 defenders out of the game, coming from out to in to score a delicious header. And he's got some headers in the locker. Very angular skull on him, man. I remember him scoring an outrageous one against Celtic in the Champions League. He went full Pythagoras for that one.
He's just coming into form. He's coming into form at such a good time for United. Because he obviously started the season quite slowly with injury and getting back up to fitness, because he had injury problems when he was at PSG as well. And then he had the ban. And I think that about now, he's just finding his best form.
For sure.
And I do think he'll sign that contract extension.
Yeah, it might just be enough in his head, despite having a pretty torrid time in England. It might just be, make him feel buoyant enough to say, you know what, I'll give it another year. Will, what are you going for out of those three, my friend?
I think I'll go for El Matador.
Okay.
Just because, hitting fine form. And like you said, he came into England, peak pandemic, can't settle down. And obviously didn't have the best of starts to his Manchester United life. But as time's gone on, the experience has shown and the quality's shown. And I mean, next season, if they can get up into the touching distance of City, that could be the quality that maybe not a championship run, but definitely a nice title race run for next season.
Got to be some unreal signings though, man. Has to be 3 or 4 top class signings, I think.
Because
you've got some grovelling grazers as well.
Without Cavani, because Bruno Fernandes's form, I know he scored a penalty at the weekend, but his form has dropped off. He had no goals in 5 prior to that. Without Cavani, I don't think it's as comfortable a finish to the end of the Premier League season for Manchester United. But he's filled in.
Greenwood's come into form.
Yeah, Greenwood as well.
I think he's got 6 in 6 in Prem.
Taking the weight off of Bruno's shoulders, haven't they? Which needed to happen at some point in the season. Okay, I'm going to go for Yilmaz. 35 years old at his 10th club, and he's just defeated the whole of Qatar. Fair play to him. Love that. That is the end of the show for this week. Like we said at the start of the show, if you want to take advantage of our discount code at Manscaped, then click on, not on screen now, that won't work. Look at the code on screen now or click the link in the description below. Joseph, do you want to point to anything on Football Daily?
Go and watch We Need to Talk, where I was ranking the best summer transfers from last summer. Now we're coming towards the end of the season.
William, you working on anything on your channel, which of course we will put in the link in the description below?
I'd actually like to point to another FD asset as well. I'm actually going to be talking the Championship, get that sort of, it's quite cathartic for me. So chatting with Mike a bit later on about the Championship season and what to look forward to.
Another FD asset as well. He sounds like he's in the CIA, this guy.
Yeah.
Another FD asset.
Yeah, well.
Sorry, but yeah, no, that's a bit rant for me. That's
you've been waiting a long time for it, Will. I'm not surprised. You're a little bit flustered. You've been waiting a long time to rant about the Championship, and it's coming.
Ready to go, mate.
It's coming.
Dukey's back. Get him on the back post. Get it in, man.
Love that. All right, like this video, subscribe to the channel with notifications on, and we'll catch you next week. Not many episodes left.